Hey everyone, I'm Ali, creator of Dungeon Architect. In this first video, I'm getting you set up and we'll create our first dungeon in minutes. We'll explore the new Launchpad, which is our sample browser. We'll build a complete level using the Foundry theme, and we'll also build our first Voxel cave using the ice cave sample. Let's get started. First up, let's make sure that the plugin is installed and enabled in your project. So go to the launcher and make sure that you've installed it in the right engine slot. Then go to the editor and edit plugins, search for Dungeon Architect, and make sure that it's enabled. Once installed, you'll find the Dungeon Architect button right here in the main toolbar. Click it and you're in the Launchpad. So this is your starting point. Every sample that you see is production ready. You can directly drop this into your games or use this as a starting point for something new. You can click on any of these cards, see more information, more images, see the path where it is. And these are standalone, and some of these samples require external assets, like this one over here has a Megascan tag, so this requires some extra setup, and we'll have videos for that as well down the line in the series that shows you how to set up these with Megascans. And all of these assets are freely available in the marketplace. For example, this uses the Electric Dreams project. This is the Factory Environment project. These are the City of Brass, all for free. And we have another Mountain Cave sample that is again standalone, and you can open these and clone it right away. So keep scrolling down and you see a lot more samples demoing the different builders, the various features like the side scroller, city builders, and some of the newer experimental features like the floating islands and the voxel islands, and a lot more for you to explore. So we have a few buttons here. Clicking on this would take us to the location of where this sample is stored, and you have other buttons for these. And we have another feature for cloning these samples, and this is important. What it does is it copies all of these contents from the plugins folder and copies it over into your content folder, allowing you to modify it and break it or do whatever you want with it without disturbing the plugins content. So you can clone it again and again and again and try experimenting with things. Okay, so let's go ahead and clone our Foundry theme. So I'm going to click clone, and it asks for a place to save this. So let's create a folder under content, say my Foundry, and save. Okay, we're in. So what this has done is it has created a copy of that and opened the level and built our dungeon. And we have this beautiful Foundry theme. Now everything in this scene is was created by us in Blender, so feel free to modify this, use it in your games, and we will also be sharing the blend files, so you can modify it if you want to. All right, so now let's zoom out, and you see that we have this dungeon that was generated, and this is controlled by the dungeon actor. And if you select that, you see a bunch of controls you have for destroying. You can build your dungeon, you can randomize it, build. Now the dungeon actor configuration has a seed parameter, and modifying this number changes the layout of your dungeon, and it gives you a different dungeon with the same configuration. So select 2. So as you've seen, Dungeon Architect generates procedural levels, and this happens in 2 distinct phases. Phase 1 is layout generation. This is where we define the structure of your dungeon, where the rooms go, how they connect, which paths the player takes, what key locations are, like the spawn room or the boss room. All of this is computed in memory as abstract data. So no meshes, no actors, just pure layout logic. And this is handled by a dungeon builder. And we set the builder in the configuration from this field. And as you can see, we have quite a few builders for different classes of layouts like cities and grid and and quite a few, and this one uses cell flow builder, and this builder expects a flow graph, and we have defined a simple flow graph here. And as you can see, clicking build, it generates a different layout every time that honors the high level rules that you have specified over here. So we scatter a bunch of cells, create a main path through this, and then another path branching off of main and merging back into it, and so on. We have a lot more in this, like key locks, spawning items, spawn room, boss rooms, and treasure rooms, and a lot more. We'll get into it later, but for now let's keep things simple and we'll use what we have in the sample. But as you can see, this designs the layout of your dungeon, and once that is done, it passes this data on to the theme engine that uses the mapping that you have defined in the theme editor to actually spawn the meshes. So if I go over to themes and open up the theme, this is our theme engine, and as you can see, we have a live preview of the assets, and you can design them here, and these are where you specify the meshes. So for example, if I remove the pipes over here, I'll get a live preview of these. So you can interactively design your themes. All right, let's head back to the Launchpad and have a look at our Voxel ice cave level. Let's hit clone and save it in a folder. Great, so it has cloned it and built it, and this is done all in the GPU, so it's extremely fast, and we use PCG to scatter these points. So I provide custom PCG nodes to expose the voxel mesh, generated voxel mesh data onto the PCG framework, so you can do all sort of cool stuff with it. All right, so let's explore this cave a little bit more, and we see this beautiful generated cave with all of these nice features to it. And these organic sculpted surfaces, they are not hand modeled, they are created at runtime using the GPU, and they are created in the compute shader. And the secret to these natural looking formations is noise-based distortion. So what we do is we start with a flat surface, and then we push it around here and there till we get a surface like this. And to show you, I'm gonna switch over. I'm gonna go to the dungeon actor and scroll all the way down to the voxel settings, and if you enable carve voxels, it's gonna create the voxels for you. So we have the mesh settings. Let's look at the noise settings, and if I were to disable the noise by setting the amplitude to 0, amplitude is how much you want to push it around here and there to create these distortions. Let's set it to 0 and build. Before build, just hit destroy, so it cleans it up, and then it builds. This is what we're starting with, right? You see how lifeless it looks, and that is what the noise functions do. They really add life to it and makes it look like a cave. Plus you have a lot of knobs that you can tweak to suit your art style, and you can create a lot of different variations of it. You can make like an underwater scene with more variations. So let's look at some of them. I'm gonna set this to say 300, build, and you have something like this. So we have two knobs that you can modify. You have the noise scale and you have the noise amplitude, and we've seen what the amplitude does. It is the distance that we the maximum distance that we use to push things around, right? So if you set this to 0, it basically disables the settings. If you set it to a smaller number, you'll have smaller distortions. And I've set it to 350. Usually a good rule of thumb is set it to half the size of your grid size, right? The reason we do that is because you see that this got pushed out over here. We don't want it to be pushed out so much that it totally blocks out the door for us so we can't walk through it, right? So we want it, if it's half the size, we still have some space to walk around it. So that would be a good thing, but you can play around with this number and then see what works for you. So that's your uh, that is your amplitude. And the next parameter is the noise scale. So the scale is how far apart you have your distortions spread out, right? So if you want them to be spread out even more further apart, you would increase this value. And if you want them to be closer and be more noisy and more chaotic, you would reduce this value so that these distortions are closer and closer to each other. Now you can also influence the noise in different scales, in different axes, noise scale in different axes. So we have a noise scale vector parameter. In the demo, it was set to a certain value. I just reset it to 111, and this is how it looks in its default value, where the noise is spread across, the noise distortions are spread evenly across all the axes. So this is a great parameter that you can play with. Change these values to get a totally different different look and feel for your dungeons. Alright, another cool feature I want to show you guys is voxel volume. So search for DAVO, DA voxel volume, drag it onto your scene, and this allows you to add or remove mass from your voxel worlds, allowing you to manipulate the generated world and gives you more control as a designer. So I'm going to scale this up, and it has two modes of operation: subtract or add. Right now subtract is checked, so it's going to remove volume from here. So let's go ahead and destroy and then build. And you see it's just taken the noise that we have on the global noise and it has built it like this. It's not a perfect square and it still follows the same noise profile that we have for the entire world, and looks really nice and natural. But you can always go ahead and overwrite these. So if I were to select this again and select noise override and set this to 0, for example, effectively disabling noise, let me see how it will make a clean cut. You also have add feature where you can add volume, so you can use that for making ramps. So let's check that out. Select this and let's not overwrite the noise and disable subtract. So we are adding now, and it's up. And we have this. So you basically use this to make ramps to other parts of your world. For example, you can make something like this, extend it out like this, and then have another room over there. So let's build a room. So you've seen the subtract volume. We are going to use that to carve out maybe a secret room underneath this. So let's do that. So we need a little bit of a passage. Bring it here, bring it down. Let's see how this works. Perfect, looking really nice. So maybe this could be like an entrance to a secret hideout somewhere over here. So let's build that. So I'm going to select the negative volume, make a duplicate of that, reset the rotation, maybe the scale as well, and let's start scaling this out. This could be our room. And maybe have another something like this. And let's see if this works. Destroy, build. And we have a little nice little secret entrance here. Make these a little taller. I can bring this down a bit. Now this room here is a bit too flat. I want to add a bit more noise to it, so I can always select this noise override and let's bump this up to maybe 500 and build. So you see the walls of the room will have more detail on them. Very nice. Perfect. So this gives you a perfect blend of procedural generation with your artistic human touch. So you can just get in and modify whatever you like. Alright, so this was the overview video for the new features like the GPU Voxel and the new themes that we've had in the Launchpad, and we will cover each detail in its own separate video, and we'll go in depth, and we'll continue to have lots of deep dives, tutorials, let's build series like building a game from scratch using Dungeon Architect or building a new theme from scratch. So stay tuned and please consider subscribing to this channel. We have a lot of content coming in. Thank you and see you in the next one.